When I first wrote the story, it was still in that biblical world. It was almost like a fable or a myth. And then someone gave me great advice, and they said, this is really good, but it would be really interesting if you just pulled it and made it right here, right now. And the moment that I did that, it changed the story. Well, I've had the idea for Blind Sacrifice, my short, for a long time. Much longer than I actually thought I had the idea. I was reading something that I wrote almost 10 years ago, and the story was almost completely there. But it was just there in my mind, and I was busy making other things as well. And then one day I was away in the countryside writing, and I thought, just to get the juices flowing, let me just work on a short story, because I was working on my second novel. And I couldn't stop writing it. I spent the entire week just working on this short story, which ended up being like a novelette, really. I told my agent about it, and he was like, this is great, you should adapt it into something cinematic. And then started that process, which I'd never done before. When I first wrote the story, it was still in that biblical world. It was almost like a fable or a myth. And then someone gave me great advice, and they said, this is really good, but it would be really interesting if you just pulled it and made it right here, right now. And the moment that I did that, it changed the story. And I could see it changing as I was writing it. Suddenly, they were not ideas, some abstract idea of people. Suddenly, they were people. You know, I could recognize the words they were speaking. I could, how they dressed, how they sat. And every time I write characters, I tend to think of the people I grew up around. You know, I create new characters, but I base them on my aunts, my mom's friends, whatever, you know. But they are completely fictional characters. But the moment that you bring it into the contemporary, then it stops being a spiritual story and starts becoming more character-driven and starts becoming more psychological. And you ask yourselves questions of, why are these people here? And why have they made these decisions? I think because I've acted before and I understood the weight, where you read the script, you audition, and then you maybe a year or two later you shoot the film, and then maybe a year later it comes out. And I thought it was way too long, you know, with the film I was acting in. So I understood the patience that one has to have with film. You know, that just because you wrote it today doesn't mean that you're going to go and make it today or tomorrow. You could wait 5 years. What I was mostly excited about was to see and to feel what it was like to see those images and to hear those words and the world that we created, but with a completely new audience. An audience that is not even from that world. An audience that doesn't even speak the language. And to see if my vision translated. Will they understand what I'm trying to say? Of course, there's a rope given to them via the very familiar story of Abraham and Isaac, but then the perversion of that story hopefully keeps people still interested. It's like, it's weird. It's like, it's not unlike performance, especially when you're there in the screening. You know, I was just so happy to be there. And I was trying to slow down everything and just experience the moment, because there'll never be another first time. If there's another screening, when I go to the screening, it will be the second, third, fourth, fifth time, you know? And so those new feelings are gone. But to be there for the first time and people are laughing and they're gasping or they're bored, they're yawning, whatever, you know, all of those experiences. But I'm so proud of the film that we made that I wasn't really that caught up about how people reacted to it. My producer and I were sitting next to each other and we were like mouthing lines from the film. We were like two little like schoolgirls, just enjoying the fact that we made it and now it's here in this incredible festival. What I love about the setting here in Locarno is how it feels like a village that everyone is involved in, you know, and everyone, you can walk from cinema to cinema, the weather's amazing, the landscape is gorgeous, and the films are not just sort of run-of-the-mill commercial films. They're really interesting films. Even the films that were screening with my films, I felt like I'd never been to a festival where I'd seen such cinema taking chances. And that's what I really enjoy about it.